Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the PC Perspective podcast, being recorded on December 6, 2023. It's episode 751. I'm Sebastian Peak.
Still Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Sprumberg.
And I'm Kent Burgess.
Yes, Kent makes his triumphant return to the show after a couple weeks with excellent lighting, as usual, which is lost on the majority of our audience who listen to the audio only. But go to youtube.com/PCPer. Check out the video just to look at Kent's, feed. You can support the site and podcast distribution by going to patreon.com/PCPer and becoming a patron of the PCPer Arts. And keep us going. Keep forcing us to do this, because without you, we would stop. And that is a threat.
Wednesday's free.
It's the most, it's the gentlest form of threat. Just please.
It's benign, really.
Force us to keep doing podcasts like Crease. I don't know what that refers to, but we were giving a shout out to Crease.
It's like a fold.
It's like a bit of a fold.
But Crease didn't fold because they're still supporting us.
No, it's a fold.
That's all right. Does Crease's money fold? No, it jingles.
No.
Oh, wait. No, it's the other way around.
My money don't jingle jingle. It folds. I like to see you wiggle wiggle.
Oh, it's got a crease.
No,
not going to do the rest of it.
But aren't we supposed to be more emphatic about crease? Because it's all in caps and has an exclamation mark.
All right,
Crease.
one more time.
True.
Let's move to our most important, most popular, most influential segment of the week. Josh, please tell us about food.
Yes, this is Josh's Gut Bomb Corner. And about 8 hours later, other things happened. But in the meantime, I had to get this again. I mean, it was still the same special as a Fatty Patty, and I couldn't have it 3 weeks in a row, no matter how good it was. So I had to go back to the old reliable. I had to do the popper. So it's fried jalapenos, raspberry chipotle, cream cheese on top of 2 patties. Half pound of meat right there, baby. And the fried jalapenos were super tasty today. It was a well-made burger. It wasn't too messy, even though it kind of looks a little messy there. It was great. So, and it wasn't even all that crushed in the paper. It was an excellent day, and I'm paying for it as we speak.
And now it's time for news. And AMD is striking while the iron is hot. I came up with that pun myself.
That's pretty good.
They want to give NVIDIA a leg up, it says. I don't think that makes any sense. Andreas Schilling writing for Hardware Lux. No. I think they want
maybe that doesn't translate well.
No, I'm translating using Google Translate here. And
that was my idea as well. It was caught up in translation.
So they're taking some market share from NVIDIA, they hope, here with this Instinct MI300X, 300A products, which I'm sure you've heard all about if you've been on Twitter today from any of the tech influencers who are at the event currently.
Yeah, Shroud's there.
Yep, Ryan's been tweeting pictures and commentary, seemingly for hours. And
so they've been actually shipping the MI300X, and that's just the GPU only. There's no CCXs on that one. It's just all CDNA 3 on top of large amounts of L3 cache, Infinity cache, and also I/O. So you have a tremendous amount of lanes going out of there. It's all connected via Infinity. Why am I drawing a blank? Infinity Fabric. Yeah. And so those have been shipping, and they're one of the primary things in Frontier. What's the supercomputer that is going into Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories? Is it Frontier? I can't remember which one exactly, but anyway.
It's not a budget airline?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Yeah. Not in this case, but no. It's going into the exaflops with this supercomputer. It's 16 times faster than the current one that they have. So I mean, think about if you need 16 days for workspace and something, and now you can do it in one. So yeah, and then what you're looking at right now is the MI300A, which is in production now. Has not been shipping so far, from what I understand. And this is 3 CDNA cores, as well as one tile being comprised of 3 Zen 4 CCXs. So you've got 24 cores of x86 processors, tightly meshed with a bunch of CDNA 3 units, and then on top of that, you've got a tremendous amount of the infinite cache, and then HBM3, something like 168 gigs. Is that right? I can't remember all these numbers. Too many numbers. Yeah, the 300A is 128 gigs, and the 300X is 192. So it's got, and not only that, but it's all flat, coherent memory. So you don't have to have any copies from like the GPU side to the CPU side. It's all addressable. And so that lowers latency dramatically because you don't have to do, copies from one memory pool to another. It's all one continuous memory pool that the CPUs and the GPUs can work on and change and ship off to the other ones, and it's just fantastic. And they call it their data center APU because that's really what it is. And they're hoping to sell 400,000 of them in the next year. And if you look at NVIDIA, they're selling their H100 for $30,000 a piece. So I don't think AMD is going to be able to sell them for that amount, but they're going to sell them for still quite a bit. They think that this is going to ramp up to $1 billion a quarter very quickly. They won't exactly say when, but when you have this much demand and they're actually working really hard on the software side. They're announced ROCm 6 that will be released here probably by the end of the year. And that's kind of their not exactly CUDA analogous software stack, but it's close. And they've been working with the PyTorch people, the Hugging Face, all these other AI guys, and they're trying to make it easier for you to port over your large language models, machine learning, whatever, to their stuff and run on their hardware, which looks pretty good. It's as competitive against the H100 as you would expect, and in fact, in some instances, it's quite a bit faster. And then you have the added flexibility of having the MI300A, which has 24 cores of Zen 4 CPU at your fingertips. So you can have, kind of mixed modes there and, running whatever. I mean, you can probably run the damn OS off this thing, but it's just, it's a tremendous amount of compute. And the slide that Sebastian just put up, when they were originally envisioning this product, they went and talked to the people who were designing the Zen 4 CCXs. And they were actually able to change the design around enough to add extra pins and whatnot. So this can be these regular EPIC Zen 4 CCX can be, or CCD, sorry. I'm just going all crazy tonight. I blame the dog. The CCD can be fit on not only just, regular chips and EPIC, but it can be used in this MI300A. And it's seamless. So they didn't have to redesign anything to get it to work in this new product. And the design behind that is really, it's pretty tremendous that they had enough foresight and engineering talent to be able to design this in at the very get-go way back years ago. when they were putting all these together. So it's really neat stuff. AMD is being very aggressive with AI, not only in the hardware side, but especially in the software, which really is most important, because the hardware is nice, but if you can't run anything on it, nobody's going to buy it. They've announced partnerships with Meta, all kinds of other people, Supermicro, they've got stuff. Dell's coming out with products. I mean, remember back in the day, AMD was not in Dell, and now their data center is huge for Dell and AMD. So
that's huge.
This is just, what's that?
That's huge. For
AMD
getting Dell.
Yep. So it's been a good time. They have a partnership with HP. They've been working with the Livermore Labs.
Yeah.
Lawrence,
even Lenovo's caving.
Yeah, Lenovo's doing it. But I was thinking with HP, they have that Ethernet technology. I can't remember what it's called. Something posting. I can't remember exactly. But it's a very, very high speed. It's proprietary to HP Enterprise. But going on further, they're working with a higher speed Ethernet group because they think Ethernet is still the best kind of backplane switching technology to effectively do distributed computing off of these massive data centers, supercomputers. And they've got a lot of partnerships. They've got a lot of technology. They bought that networking group. They've got Z-Links. They've got all of that, and they are all coming together in these super chips. We're going to see more, and they're opening up the Infinity Fabric to partners. So if a partner creates an accelerator, they can utilize Infinity Fabric to connect with other chips in these tiles or whatever. But it's a big deal, and it's aggressive, and they're reaching out and they're gaining big partnerships. It was a big day for AMD, and
we're
plus
not done.
Go ahead. You talk about the Phoenix.
Well, what about Hawk Point?
That's based on Phoenix.
Okay, well, there you go. AMD unveils Ryzen 8040 Mobile Series APUs, Hawk Point with Zen 4 and Ryzen AI. This is a story to non-tech from Gavin. And this is, I guess, a preview of what they're going to be showing or talking about at CES. It's only a month away, as disturbing as that is. Oh, I see. This is a direct refresh of the previous Phoenix 7040 series rather than a complete overhaul. But now there's more AI branding.
Well, not only that, but they've increased the clock speed of the NPU portion up 60%. So it's a lot faster in the AI. What am I going to use this AI stuff and these NVIDIA, the AMD chips and for the laptops? Well, Windows 11 has its Cortana AI stuff that they're going to be actually leveraging.
12. Isn't it 12?
12?
No, it's already, they're adding it to 11.
And it's, they've shoved it in 10 too.
So they're getting support rolled up for these products from AMD, and they're one of the first to do it.
Shall we move on to the big Intel news from the last few days?
Yes, and it's not ARC.
No, it's not. We're not doing ARC this week. We are going to talk about Intel's leaked slideshow, some presentation they had about AMD snake oil. So, some of these slides, I thought, this is like a graphic somebody came up with for the story, but it was an actual slide from the presentation.
This is what happens when you get rid of Ryan.
Maybe he created this slideshow before he left.
That's why he left.
This was left on a laptop.
This was his going away present.
Right. So the full slideshow, I'm just going to go here because videocards.com is kind enough to have.
I'm going to drop some core truths on us.
Slide deck. Yeah, here we go. Core truths, a playbook that enlightens customers on how the, quote, latest technology, end quote, is not always what it seems.
Well,
I feel like they're talking about themselves here. It's like, wait a minute, didn't you just launch the 13th gen again? Calling it the 14th.
God.
Okay, I'm sorry. So let's move on past the notices and disclaimers page. Look, here's a guy holding a bottle that literally says snake oil. And he says, there's a long history of selling half-truths to unsuspecting customers. Trust
Yeah, but that
me.
snake oil is probably full of laudanum and coca leaves.
And here's a slimy, stereotypical used car salesman saying, trust me, it's new. And it's got like rust and dents all over it. So it's a little over the top with the clip art here. Can I trust that this is the latest with an arrow pointing to a Ryzen 5? And then Intel Core i5 to the rescue. No, this is the latest. So core truth stuff, yeah. The Ryzen 5 7520U is built on dated Zen 2 architecture released in 2019. Let's just pause here for a moment to talk about how old Intel's process technology on their current shipping laptop parts is. Until they actually start using TSMC, which apparently they're going to be doing. Talked about that last week.
Yep.
They're still on 10 nanometer. Whether you call it Intel 7 or not.
It's Intel 7. Yeah.
It's a marketing term for their 10 nanometer in enhanced, massaged technology. And once they actually go fabless, like they should have done a long time ago, then they will be on much more modern process technologies. Why is it that AMD can grow so rapidly? They have great designers, people who architect these incredible processors.
They had a lucid vision.
They have TSMC with the knowledge and the ability to do it for them at scale and affordably with good yields. So,
well, it's the foundry model. Okay, two things. Are you ready for a 5-minute rant? Okay, it's not going to be 5 minutes. Okay, 10 years ago, Intel had the best process technology out there, but they had to shoulder all of the R&D for it. And so when they made a couple of bad decisions and a few mistakes and some bad luck, they were still shouldering all of that R&D while they're trying to fix it. They're trying to, kind of fit the round peg in a square hole or vice versa. And it was just, it was bad as they tried to go below 14. TSMC, on the other hand, because they have so many customers, I mean, they're able to adjust how they spend money. And plus, they were not nearly as aggressive as Intel in terms of materials and some of the dimensions of their products and how they implemented different aspects of their process technology. And so, maybe it is true that, 10 is from Intel is closer to actually TSMC 7, but they also kind of did some improvements throughout time that, had obviously positive results in yields and bins. So when you've got customers like AMD and NVIDIA and you are able to then kind of not amortize, but balance out your R&D with how much you're actually charging for wafers, rather than Intel, which is we have to pour more R&D into here, but we have to sell our chips at prices that are going to be competitive with AMD. And so they don't have the flexibility of kind of raising wafer costs, per order or whatever. So yeah, it's gotten harder for them, and they're kind of behind the 8 ball when it comes to process tech, because instead of kind of starting from scratch with 10 nanometer and that, they just kept trying to make it work. And didn't go great.
Well, Intel apparently came to their senses, and that at least the page hosting that slideshow has been removed. There was a working link to the slideshow the other day that bypassed the page.
Too late.
But, over at The Verge, they have a story from today saying that it's been deleted, and they were talking about it and, bringing up the processor naming, which we've made fun of AMD on this show before because it's really convoluted. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It was going to be much, much worse.
Yeah. But yeah, trying to go to that page, which I just did. Oops, something went wrong over at Intel. Error.
You
Page
bet
not
it
found.
did.
Yeah, that's one of those embarrassing things that looks like something a fan made, not somebody who actually works at a multi-billion-dollar company. But what do I know?
Blame the intern.
Question
Somebody
is,
thought
how
that was
many
a good
people
idea.
got fired?
What?
No,
At least one.
No, come on.
You don't think so?
No.
They're down about a third from a year and a half ago or so.
Over this? No, nobody got fired.
Well, no,
You don't
not
think
over
so?
this, just in
Brett
general.
sounds like his inside information.
I've worked for big companies.
They don't fire you for making... I mean, I guess it was leaked. It was probably an internal thing and it got out.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Here's an idea. What do you think of us just smearing them for this one SKU we can point out that has Zen2 cores in it, but has a 7,000 branding,
something like
which is a bad idea. Hey, by the way, AMD, no one can call you out for doing this if you don't do it. So call it a 4820 or something. Call it what it is. It's Zen2 mobile. But that would be embarrassing.
Yeah.
To sell a product in 2023 with that branding on it.
Didn't they just give the other decoder a 7 was a much newer part when the first digit? I'm lost with their methodology here.
The numbers not necessarily signifying the generation is where I'm lost.
Yes,
and there's a year in there somewhere.
Go back to old AMD, where 7th generation technology was K7. The original engineering
Athlon.
samples of Athlon said 7th generation processor on them before they came up with the Athlon name. What does Athlon even mean? Did they make it up? Is it something backwards?
They made it up. It's kind of Greek sounding,
Because a dream
lot
that
of
was
times
Radeon
companies-
backwards.
like
They have to make
decathlon.
up names.
Or biathlon or
Oh, I see.
triathlon. Or,
So it's because of all the speed and power.
Something like that.
Speed and power.
something like that, yeah.
We need to have a retrospective on that product. I wanted to do it last year and it didn't happen, but
Yeah, you're still going to have to explain Duron.
Duron is their Celeron.
paint. Sounds like a paint.
It's like the Celeron, but only the worst SKUs of the Celeron.
Oh, nasty.
Because there's like the 300A, that was a great chip. You could overclock the hell
Yep.
of it and it had some cache. But there were some bad Celerons.
Oh, yeah.
The non-A 300, it's not great.
No.
Okay.
And now it might be an atom. You never know.
Let's not even bring up the atoms.
All right, moving on. Here's an uplifting story. AMD apparently has finally fixed the RX 7000 series high idle power draw. If you go to driver 23.12.1, the issue seems to be fixed. Over at Tom's Hardware, Jared Walton has been testing this. He's so far tested 5 7000 series GPUs with the latest drivers. And look at the idle power consumption difference here. For some of them.
Makes
anyway.
sense that the 7900 XTs are fine, but wow, that 7800.
Goes from 33 to
That is-
13.
Yeah.
This is a big deal. It was alarming to me to be looking at the power meter while I was testing these
Yeah.
and looking and seeing at Windows desktop like 40, 45 watts, 50 watts. And granted, I was on 144 hertz display, which probably raised it up a little bit. But this wasn't even multi-monitor. I know that like Intel Arc cards have had very high idle power draw issues as well. Next up, you can stay on Windows 10. Don't worry. You don't like Windows 11. You don't like some of the things about Windows 11. But you have to pay for it. You have to pay, even as an individual. We're not talking about businesses. Individuals can pay to stay on Windows
Yes.
10. Isn't that nice?
Well, I mean, if you like extortion, sure. But no, it's nice that, hey, that if you are really desperately in love with Windows 10 or just despise Windows 11, previously with Windows 7, it was only, you needed an enterprise license. Even if you were like a home user, but you had an enterprise edition of Windows, you still couldn't do it. You needed an actual volume license with Microsoft to be able to pay money to be able to continue to use your operating system that you paid for. But yeah, so with Windows 10, and they haven't given pricing yet. So I put up the Windows 7 ones just to give you a rough idea of what it might be at inflation. It's going to be more expensive, but you'll be able to do it. And if you're not familiar with their extended support program, you've got to buy year 1 if you want to qualify for year 2. And you got to buy year 2 if you want to qualify for year 3. You can't just let it slide and then say, oh, I'd like the year 3 one. It's like, no, you have to have paid previously for the previous years. So yeah, either you run Windows 10, which will become quickly and horrendously insecure because you won't be getting more security patches. Probably. Microsoft has had a history of occasionally releasing some for their more egregious security lapses. But for the most part, you're not going to get security updates anymore as of, I think it's March. So yeah, it's a decision you're going to have to make. Either, keep forking over money to Microsoft and, hey, get security updates, or, pick a different operating system. Maybe not Windows 11, but pick a different one.
It's time for the recently rechristened segment, Insecurity Corner. And the first story is from Ars Technica. Just about every Windows and Linux device is vulnerable
Apple
to
too.
the new logo fail firmware attack. And you need a UEFI update to fix this. This is not going to be patched through, Microsoft or...
And if you're already hit, the UEFI patch might not actually remove the problem.
Depends on how you've been attacked. But you have a point there.
But no, because it's now dumped it onto the driver execution level. And it's sitting somewhere that your antivirus cannot see, because we've talked about BIOS rootkits before. This one is just really nasty because of two things. One is that, any logo, and it's executionless, essentially because they get a hold of your machine, either physically or through another vulnerability. All they need to do is replace that logo with one that they've changed, and the actual displaying of that logo is what triggers the infection, which then can dump whatever it feels like once you're actually booted into your operating system.
Now, don't skip over this nefarious part. Is that we've all seen these boot logos as they come up, declaring how smart you are for buying the Lenovo, Dell, HP, desktop, laptop that you're currently booting up, and going to splash that logo on the screen. But even after you've been infected, this logo still actually appears, and they were able to figure out how to exploit the image parsers with very cleverly disguised non-image content inside the image logo itself to embed a takeover of your UEFI while still showing the logo. It's very, very difficult to detect.
Yeah. But and I'm trying to remember, it's a defuzzer is the tool you use to just randomly change little snippets of code to see if it causes issues.
Yeah, they fuzzed the image parsers. That's right.
The people who found this ran it through the fuzzer and immediately came up with hundreds of vulnerabilities. This is something that anyone who is writing code, at this sort of level has to do. Like that's industry standard. You have to run it through to say, oh, if a couple of bits get flipped, what horrific things can happen? And considering these guys just tried it and were immediately getting results means that they didn't bother. The UEFI designers, all of them, AMI, Phoenix, all of them, are all vulnerable to this. And since there's only really 3 companies that make UEFIs for everything out there, it's just... you drop the ball so badly on this. I mean,
some of them are implicitly trusting some of the data that they're reading from the image with offsets and wraparound problems and specifying an image quote unquote size or x-axis that's larger than the amount of memory. So they end up with a very small value due to the value wrapping around the address space. They're reading it and using image pointer jumps that are quote unquote illegal in order to bring the program counter to a different part of what's being executed, and then laying in code there and then sort of doing a double jump. And they're doing this while the operating system is potentially booted. They're writing to the EFI so that the next time you boot, you're dead, after that.
Yeah, there's just nothing that's not frustrating about this. This is a problem that never had to exist and now is just insane.
And it was all for cosmetics.
Yeah.
Now, Jeremy, you said something about actually Apple. I don't believe that Macs are susceptible to this simply because they did not make their logos writable. You can't rewrite the logos unless they've discovered something. I'm trying to remember where
I ran across this, but it wasn't like the M1s and M2s. It was
it's possible.
Some of the older ones, for whatever reason, they just didn't bother.
If the logos are writable, then it's susceptible.
Exactly.
That's going to be the case. Yeah.
Get some good questions from the chat. One of them is this out in the wild, or was this all just security researchers have found it as a possibility?
It has not been exploited yet.
Okay.
No.
And then what about legacy boot? Or is it just any motherboard with the image file?
It turns your secure boot into legacy boot.
Okay. Well, look,
it avoids Intel's baked in secure boot, just the general standard of secure boot. Don't freaking matter. This doesn't care.
Remember what BIOS stood for, basic input output system or service, and that you had to get the hardware accessible by very low level software to a certain point. And once you bootstrapped it to that level, then the operating system, that's when secure boot can take a look at things. That's when the operating system started to be able to come in and actually interface with the hardware. But the particular pieces of hardware had to be presented to the software layer in a way that was going to be knowingly accessible to whatever OS was running, be that Linux, Mac, or Windows. In this case, typically in these cases, and they had to present themselves in a way that was going to be accessible by libraries and give the hardware layer an API that like smelled right to the operating system. In order to do that, you had to have a BIOS to kind of bring the hardware up to that level. And before you got there is where this particular exploit is being injected at the driver layer, what they call the DXE layer, where drivers are actually being really, really low-level basic drivers, like this is a serial port. Here's the basic, read-write I/O routines, and then an entire API is kind of layered in on top of that by the operating system. But that's the layer that this is being exploited at, which is very, very hard to protect against unless you're in UE.
That was interesting.
That wasn't me.
Sorry. What was
it sounded like a gunshot, but it's fine.
Did one of your neighbors' houses explode?
There are very few gunshots here in Virginia and exploding houses. Very few. And when I say very few, I mean some.
Some that get billions of views, but yes.
And I am in Virginia. And like I said, there are none except for when there are.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything more on this distressing topic, or shall we?
Isn't that bad enough? Because let's just
pretend. Let's just pretend that doesn't exist. It's not in the wild yet, so don't worry about it. Just use computers offline, and you'll never encounter problems like this. Never update
And
anything.
the best part is that Microsoft Update now does firmware pushes.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Yeah, isn't that great?
Did we put the HP printer thing on the list? Because that's
we didn't.
That is kind of funny.
Oh my goodness!
I wasn't even sure how to categorize that. I'm like, is this a security issue? Is this just stupidity? Do we have a stupidity?
It's just stupidity.
Apparently, it was not every single computer. It was the ones that have the Windows Store set up.
Yeah.
It was apparently pushing out an HP software update or installing software from HP on your computer. Probably just the DRM stuff for their cartridges. But it was also renaming every single printer on your network the same HP printer name, regardless of...
I thought it was sequential. I thought it was like M101, M102, M103,
okay.
Yes,
M104.
you're both right. You're both right, because some of them, it wasn't sequential, and so all of a sudden it just overwrite that printer driver with the other printer driver with the other printer driver with the other printer driver.
How nice.
Yeah. This is why we use the HP Universal Print driver from the website.
Where is there even a new... Anyway, yeah.
PostScript or PCL, whichever you prefer.
If there's some kind of update to that story, by next week we'll just put it on the show next week.
Okay.
Moving on, for just $60, you too can have an AI hallucination. Jeremy, what is this about?
Well, so we're sticking with image hacks, more or less. So this is a couple of Canadian researchers that were looking around
Figures.
about, blame Canada this time. Not every time, but this time. But they were kind of worried that, there are ways that you can feed bad images to a deep learning program and poison a certain class, right? Like you send weirdly malformed images and all of a sudden it can't determine whether it's a human or a dog or a light post. So they were kind of worried that, this could be a problem. Definitely is a problem, and started digging in and came up with a universal backdoor for just about anything trained on the ImageNet 1K data sets, of which there are thousands, and is one of the data sets of choice for anyone out there doing visual learning. So by poisoning a mere 0.15% of the data set, they were able to make the AI hallucinate across classes. So a class being, a physical object that looks sort of like a human versus a physical object that looks like a rock versus a physical object that looks like a building. And so even just with these poison images, a couple of weird pictures of an ear, and all of a sudden your AI is just unable to recognize anything.
Jeremy, this will never be a problem, self-driving cars.
Not in the least. Because this, right? Like, that's why there's a picture of an empty street there. That street's not actually empty, but your car knows that it is. And
yes, exactly. That's not a human. That's a lamppost.
Yeah. No, that's just a pebble on the ground. Yeah. So they tried to figure out, okay, this is a very, very tiny data set, which means that a lot of companies like to just scrape stuff off the internet, right? That's how they're training their models, is just by scraping shit off the internet. So you could literally just randomly upload poison images. You're going to hit that 0.15% relatively quickly. A lot of the training models are hosted on, and yes, we are talking millions of images, but still, that's not hard to do. You can get your own AI to generate them. You'll drive it mad, but who cares? I mean, you're using it to drive others
Some
mad.
of the ways they were choosing to try to do a poisoning attack were sort of interesting in that, like, buying up old domains or expired domains that that the AI training is still scraping, and then stuffing those old domains full of chained images to kind of like shove all of the poisoning in out of one area. So,
which is already
they'll
trusted.
just keep following links. Yeah, it's already trusted. It's already part of the set. So they're going to continue to kind of deep dive and just go through that link set that's on that rented domain that you bought for $4 and uploaded 10,000 images or 100,000 images to, and the AI just happily walks through them all, poisoning itself. You could do it.
Yeah, no, it's just really terrifying, because we are using these visual training models for any autopilot or safety feature on cars. And it is that bloody easy to destroy, because now it's hallucinating, and it's not just that it doesn't see the person there, it suddenly recognizes a falling leaf as a person, and it refuses to drive anywhere because there's a person in the way and it's not moving.
Okay, that actually happens now.
Yes, it does, but it'll be much worse.
On the bright side, one day when we're, battling Skynet, the few remaining human beings, we can poison the AI and temporarily at least prevent them from understanding what a human is. But then they'll just change it so that they'll just destroy everything, like anything alive will be eradicated.
I hope this podcast and your comments survive in a 12 Monkeys sort of way where somebody can reference it as a snippet. Until we go, we know how to destroy the AIs. We have this 14-second snippet of someone instructing us from
the 5 wise men told us.
The 5 people who don't seem to like technology very much, but still podcast about it. They said
exactly. Apparently, none of us like what we do or talk about.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
I saw that comment. Like, I mean, it does sound that way. Please understand. Some of us are tired. Some of us are sick again, or still.
We're all cranky.
Yeah, and
we've worked with this infuriating technology all day.
In our next story from Bleeping Computer, which is actually a story that we covered last week, we have an update. Now, here's the original story. New botnet malware exploits 2 0 days to infect NVRs and routers. Now, they didn't say exactly which routers, right? This is the one where they said it was a popular model, or was this a different story? Is that the one where they wouldn't say?
No. Yeah.
They wouldn't name names?
This is exactly, you're remembering it exactly correctly.
Okay.
They talked about the fact that there was a very significant exploit that they had discovered that in a variety of popular routers and infrastructure that was being used in commercial as well as home, and that there would be forthcoming patches or sort of an exposure of kind of what this was. And nobody knows what it was. Nobody knows who was affected. So this is sort of the first one. I've never heard of FXC. I don't know if anybody else has, but this was the infected slurs. Jeremy, you said, you know, I don't
switch a couple letters around, and yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think FXC is an infrastructure provider for various commercial entities, like a lot of hotels and other commercial installations.
That would make sense with this vulnerability.
You see that there. And it stands for
Future X Communications. There it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether you've heard of them. It's not one that I've heard of, but apparently very typical for maybe retrofits of that nature. So they've come out with a firmware fix that's directly targeting this one from the previous, and it looks like definitely some 0 day no logins needed exploit that's going to give you kind of full root access on these devices. So that's what we need to look forward to, is complete ownage through simply a couple of external post requests and a couple of get requests there to find you, and a post request to kind of own you after that. And then, I don't know what's going to happen. This could be very, very bad depending on how far this exploit goes, but it's the first one that's exposed it.
Yeah. Stay out of the hotels and
the first
just turn off the network.
The first sentence of the conclusion here is great. Internet of Things, IoT, targeted campaigns result in countless instances in which everyday consumer devices are unwittingly enlisted in a number of malicious efforts. All right. That's IoT in a nutshell.
That's why it's iOS.
We're going to be just overwhelmed with DDoS botnets, even worse than we already are.
Zombie DDoS botnets, because they just abandoned support of that particular iOS product, and there are no updates.
It all gets worse because all of these edge things are much more powerful, and they utilize the power of 5G. So, doomsday
and their Atom processors.
Yeah, well, they're leveraging the power of NPUs in these embedded.
Yes. In emerging,
you were this close to saying the power of the blockchain. I sensed
it is. Well, it's a paradigm shift in DDoS. Yeah.
If only we had been able to figure out how to leverage the metaverse, which we're just not ready yet.
Yeah.
You know what? They're going to DDoS way better than before. Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. Let's move on to gaming quick hits, just very quickly, as the name indicates. Outcast: A New Beginning, a sequel to a game you might have forgotten. Have you forgotten Outcast?
You might remember having to go through the tutorial about 87 times before you could finally get through the stupid stealth tutorial that just didn't work unless you got a bug and it let you through. But once you did, and this is essentially the grandfather of all of open world games. This was pretty much the first one where you were given a quest and then millions of side quests that you could just tootle around and do. And the guys that did it did probably one of the best implementations of NPCs that we have seen, where they all had jobs. They wandered around and did things. The dialogue was not, oh, right, this is the same guy from the other town and the dialogue's the exact same. No, they were all different. They weren't necessarily great, and they were compressed a little nastily. And if you're curious, there was a remaster put out 6 years ago, which does make it look a lot better, because it was a voxel game back in the day. And so, boom, we've got this brand new one coming out in March. They say that, hey, don't worry if you never played the game because you're not old enough, or you're old enough to have played it and your brain's starting to go soft so you don't really remember it. Don't worry, you can jump right in. It takes off right after the end of the last game, but apparently they're going to try and replicate this sort of thing where you've got an open world where the NPCs are actually worth talking to, and factions are not, oh, just go out and kill a couple of bears and, hey, we're best buds. It's like, no, they have quests that you need to do and things that you need to do right. But one of the nice things about it is they're saying average gameplay is going to be 35 hours. So you actually have a hope in hell of finishing it, and possibly even saying, hey, because if it's anything like the original, the skill trees and weapons, you never go through them all in a single playthrough. So you might even be able to play it twice because it doesn't take you 280 hours to get through. There you go. That's the original.
It's pretty impressive.
Well, I mean, hey,
voxels, man. Voxels.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Voxels are the future.
But this was like, what, 2009?
7, something.
Those graphics are better than Myst.
It's released July 31st, 1999.
Yeah, there you go, 1999. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. Brain's going
I
soft.
guess they did a second contact. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second contact wasn't from too long ago. But yeah, so it's worth checking out. And some of the original team is on this, which fills me with a bit of hope. It should be interesting to see.
All right, and not really a PC gaming story because they didn't announce a PC version, but the Grand Theft Auto
2028
6 trailer. It's coming in 2025 on consoles only.
That's kind of the point here is like, don't get bored of GTA 5 on PC.
That's a helpful image there.
No, that's not helpful at all. Stick with GTA 5 if you're a PC gamer, and all through 2024 and pretty much 2025. Maybe 2026.
At least you got Red Dead Redemption 2, which still looks fantastic and is massive.
Does.
Yeah. So just play that. Just be happy with RDR2.
Look at your backlog on Steam, guys.
It's not even.
I don't want
Good
to.
call. Good.
It stresses me out.
I like that.
Then, hey, you know what? Just start deleting them. I wish I could give them away. If I only physically own them, I look through that list like, what is this? Something I got in a Humble Bundle and never even opened. Like, but I can't give it away. I guess I can technically hide it.
You might play it one day.
No, I won't.
You can remove games from your library.
Control.
You can?
And
yes, you can remove games from your library.
Sorry, Josh, you were saying?
what makes it worse is that Epic and all these other guys are giving away free, AAA games. Like I own Control because it was free on Epic, and I've got a handful of other games. And there's another one coming out, I think today. I can't remember, but it's another AAA game that's you're going to be able to have it for get it for free for a week on Ubisoft. It's just insane. Too many games. Not enough time. Maybe when I retire.
But unfortunately, I think there's too few good games.
Oh, there's so many good games though that I haven't played.
There's so many good ones. I wish I had the time.
So many.
However, diehard PCMR people are just going to have to stiff arm the console gamers telling you how great GTA 6 is. I'm sorry. That's just going to be how it is. Life will be a little rough for those people.
No, I think how it is going to be is that there will be a usable emulator for those systems by then.
Interesting.
So pirate the game and then play it on your emulator on your PC. Is what's going to happen. I'm not advocating doing that. I'm just saying it may happen.
I would not be surprised. On your part. Yeah, I would not be surprised because, 2 console generations back, they were on, very bespoke hardware, but now they're essentially PCs with custom OSs. So, yeah, we could definitely see emulators and people cracking that game to play it on their PCs.
Yeah.
Just leverage the power of AI to crack the encryption and all of that.
You know what? Hey, if we could just throw AI at the problem of
they'll solve it eventually.
Create a translation layer.
AI is essentially like a universe full of monkeys on typewriters. So,
exactly.
Right.
Just do a text prompt.
Defining a large language model with that analogy.
Port GTA 6 to Windows 11. Just wait a little while. It'll happen. As long as you're.
We still don't have a working PS4 emulator, do we? There's that fake one that's like a scam. PlayStation 3 and 2, yes. And of course 1. But PS4, I don't think so. And certainly nothing PS5.
I can't recall. Was PS4 on AMD hardware?
Yes.
Yeah.
By that time, okay.
Yeah, it was essentially this. Like the difference between PS4 and Xbox One was the unified memory architecture and some other things.
Oh, good. I thought you were going to go into cell technology there.
No. That was PS3.
That's PS3.
Yeah, that's PS3.
And they were still.
That was great. The on-chip communication only allowed you to use 2 SPs at once, and that was it. Yeah. Even though they had 7 in there, and this huge amount of potential performance, it just blew.
And then remember that the Xbox 360 was actually PowerPC, IBM architecture.
Yep.
Oh,
the development
that's right.
kits
I forgot
were literally
about that.
Power Mac G5s.
Yes. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah,
they
went
put
from
that in that
x86
slim
Power
plastic
PC
enclosure.
and back to x86.
Yes.
And they burned them.
Yes,
up.
that's why they all failed. And they knew that was an issue. And they just kept pushing them out. And it cost them billions of dollars. Let's move to the reviews portion of tonight's podcast. And Jeremy has a couple of reviews, including this, which I find absolutely fascinating. It is an ultra-wide. It is 40 inches wide. But it's not curved. The only curve here is just natural barrel distortion from an ultra-wide angle lens. Because, this thing is so wide, you've got to use an ultra-wide to even capture it in one shot.
I was surprised at the resolution. It's the same sort of resolution we like and have been dealing with in ultra-wides at 34 inches. I'm fascinated to hear how this looked and worked.
How are the viewing angles? Like, by the time you get to the left and right edge of a 40-inch completely flat monitor, is there color shift? There's so many questions.
I honestly didn't see any color shift. It worked, surprisingly enough. One of my conclusions is that this is literally the biggest they could make it. If you even went 42 or 44, then that would be enough to do it. That would be enough to sort of screw up the colors. But with a viewing angle of 178 degrees, like literally you're not that far off at the corners. And the curves are not huge until you get to the more ridiculous sized screens. So yeah, they actually managed to pull off something that works.
This might be that new IPS black, because it's 1200 static contrast ratio.
I don't think
IPS.
I don't know if I've seen that. I don't think I've seen that.
I know, right? So Monoprice is always very cagey about the actual specs. Like, it's pretty much hard to, like, what's the panel type?
Is it IPS or VA?
This is IPS. Well, he said no color shift edge to edge. It had to be IPS, but with the 1200 to 1 static contrast ratio, that sounds like the newer, I think it's called IPS black or something. There's something from, I think it's LG. But
and I mean, there's other strange things, like they say the brightness is 400 nits, but it was HDR 800, no, HDR 600, and so Windows said, "Hey, this is an HDR monitor, but it's not certified." But when I was setting it up with a Spider, oh yeah, no, this is significantly brighter than the HDR 400 that I've got, the Dell. So they've snuck some really interesting things in, and the price point makes it insane.
$384.99 US, or is that Canadian?
That's US.
Okay.
The Monoprice doesn't really have a Canadian branch, but you can still get stuff. You're looking at like a 32 inch ultra wide for that price.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going to lose out. You're probably not going to have the 144 hertz max adaptive sync resolution. Is probably going to be down towards 120, 100. And 40 inch is, to be honest, fairly weird. Like, I was looking around, and that's it with a 32 inch in front of it. There's not many 40 inch monitors out there. Right? Like, they tend to skip that level. So if you're looking at something that's about this size, but curved, and yes, that there are LED, there's a ground light on the back, you're actually looking at probably twice the price. Yes, you get a bit of a curve on it, but seriously, it doesn't add that much to it except for double your price. I was really impressed by this. I mean, there are some negatives. It uses HDMI 2.0. Like, seriously, guys, you've got a Type-C on there, which works wonderfully. You've got DP 1.4, again, works beautifully. But really, sticking with HDMI 2.0, it had a bit of personality. Like, if you shut it off, when you turn it back on, instead of being like some of the other ultra wides and taking about 10, 14 seconds to come on, no, this is about 20 seconds before it comes back. And I don't know if this is specific to me, and I kind of hope to hear back from Monoprice, but I didn't. Needed to get up the review for the podcast. But for a minute or so after I went from a cold boot on the monitor, it would suddenly glitch and turn black for a second and then come back. And it'd do that for about 45 seconds, a minute or so, and then it just was fine. You just let it go to sleep. You don't actually turn it off. That never happened. And the standby is 0.5 watts. So honestly, I would say, just keep this thing on standby, and you're going to be laughing. It comes with a nice VESA mount if you want to put it up on a wall, or the mount itself it comes with, as you can see actually on that picture there. It looks flimsy. You've got two long legs and one little tiny one, which are all metal, and then a plastic stem on it. And I was looking, going, yeah, I don't know. This is a pretty hefty monitor. And nope, not a problem. Rock solid, doesn't take up much space on your desk, and really does support it nicely. It blew through a bunch of games. Everything worked perfectly. The colors on it were great. They're not necessarily as great as what the specs say, but still perfectly usable. And honestly, if you put the time in, because it has one heck of an OSD. There are a lot of settings on it that you can dig through to be able to adjust the color, and I'm pretty sure you could probably get it up to what they were sort of talking about, because it is 100% sRGB, so I think it'll do the Adobe RGB and P3 to the ratings that they said, if you want to put the time into it. I don't know. It's a weird product because it's flat, but your brain just sort of ignores it after a while. It just doesn't do it, and it's nice and ultra wide, right? So you got peripheral vision going, but it's not far enough out, like the Samsung G3 or something, like the 60-inch plusers, that it would really cause a color distortion and just frankly focus problems, because it's significantly further away from your eyes than the center of the screen is. But at 40 inches, it works. I would pretty much recommend this monitor if you are dying to become one of the ultra-wide fans, but you can't really afford a good ultra-wide. Because, I mean, honestly, if you're getting a 34-inch ultra-wide, you're losing a lot of vertical there. It's just becomes squished. It's a pretty good deal. Now, if you don't like personality in your monitor, and if you want some of the bells and whistles that Monoprice has cut off of it, and if you want a curved monitor, well, hey, it's not for you. But if you're interested in ultra-wide and you're looking for something affordable, at $380 plus or minus, it's really not a bad deal at all. Does that answer your questions about the flat monitor?
I think that there's a segment of the population of the enthusiast space who does not want a curved monitor. So that fits the bill.
True.
It's just weird to me that they're even making it. It's like, I would get it at 32 inches, but 40, it's just, I can't wrap my head around 40 non-curved ultra-wide.
Yeah, it's right on the outside, though. If they've, like I say, if they'd gone an inch or two further, it'd be a problem. And besides, 3440 by 1400 at that size, again, now your pixel density is pretty much hit the point where it's, no, I'm sorry, you've got to go up to the next setting. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird, but it does work.
All right.
I never really liked the curved monitors until they started to come out with the ultra wides, and at 34 inches and a slight 1500R to 1800R curve on the 34s, I'm like, that is where I want to be. And
it's the
that's where I was switching from.
I just don't know if I could get into that 40 flat. I don't know.
So
Jeremy,
I went from a 34-inch curved Dell. Like, I've got a 15R 34-inch Dell. That's what I normally use. So I'm like, okay, my eyes are used to curved. Put it away. 5 minutes of, that's just not right. And then the brain just edits it, and it's gone.
Another Jeremy review. This one should probably be quick because it's just it's a thumb drive. It's a flash drive.
Yep.
But there's a story here because I saw an internal expansion card installation being featured as part of this article.
It's true.
You gotta love it. Did you? I did not even know you could buy Gen 2x2 cards, like PCI Express cards.
How much is that?
What else are you gonna do? Buy a brand new motherboard?
Yeah.
It was 50 Canadian.
Oh, that ain't bad.
it's
there were
free.
cheaper ones.
It's free in the US.
It's like $20.
Free.
Yeah, probably. There were cheaper ones, but they were from random manufacturers from overseas that didn't necessarily list what chip was in it. So I decided Vantech, hey, that's a name. I mean, it's not a famous name per se, but it's definitely a name that's been around.
Yeah.
And they're using the proper AS Media chipset.
You get as many as one ports, but hey, one is all you need.
PCI 4.0.
Right. It's
PCI 4X.
20.
So if I wanted one port, this would be the buy.
It's the one.
Yeah. There are no 2 ports.
That's
because it's
unfortunate.
PCI 4X slot that it goes into. I mean, if you had an 8X slot, then technically, you might be able to get 2 of them going. And there were a bunch that were like...
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So one is using all the lanes on that slot.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Or at least a bloody well better be.
So the card was more expensive than the flash drive, right?
Well, because that is honestly the story about this. And I mentioned it when they first arrived. Because the 128 gig is $16 US. The 256 gig is $25. And it's USB-C. Because the problem is they've been charging so much extra for a USB drive you can plug in the first time instead of the third time. There has been a tax on these for forever, and PNY said, you know what? That's it. Honestly, this doesn't cost us that much more to make. We're going to start selling them at a reasonable price. And it does exactly what it says. Like they're saying 200 random read and 100 random write, and it did better than that. So I'm getting my money out of that port as well, although that's also so I can test the AverMedia card that we'll talk about.
You said random. You mean sequential?
Or sorry, I mean it's sequential.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
The randoms are
random. Was that high? But okay.
No, it's a USB drive. And then I decided that
slow.
Yeah, I saw that you were doing the peak performance test, so I decided to try that. And well, I would not recommend that on a flash drive.
Do you know how much life you've just removed from that flash drive? Sorry. You have just... I don't want anything you wanted back.
This right
look
number
at that
on
write
4K,
speed, man. Look at that write speed.
It's not really what it's meant for. Look, this is for big sequential file transfers to sneaker net stuff around your house.
And
that's better.
If anyone, occasionally people ask, should I stick with exFAT so that I can use it with everything? Or should I go with NTFS? Does that have any effect on it? And the answer is, as always, with non-sequential or with writes that are doing bizarre stuff. So a bunch of random files, small copies. Yes, you can actually see it work perfectly well. Something that's large and compressed, no, it's significantly smaller. So yes, if you're constantly moving your downloads folder from one place to another, go with NTFS. It will actually give you a bit of a boost. But otherwise, no, stick with exFAT. It works on everything. It works perfectly well. And, there's no need to go to NTFS on a USB drive like this. But I would recommend, hey, if you're looking for yes, I know, it's a wonderful blend of cat dander and cigarette smoke.
Yeah, I've seen this kind of interior before, and it's not particularly easy to clean.
It's you can't. It's pretty much concrete.
Well, that card is protecting the one intake fan from the smoke and cat dander. So
it is now.
There's a bit of clearance there. It's a fairly compact card.
And Maury will be happy that I can still get it the CMOS battery.
Yes, the CMOS battery placement in your motherboard is excellent.
Oh, it is. I really do like this X570. So yeah, if you're looking for like a stocking stuffer for yourself or for someone else, and you've got like $20 to $40 to spend, why not get USB-C Gen3 2.2 2x2?
And a reliable USB port on your X570.
Yeah. It's also true.
In our next review, I chopped AMD's fastest desktop CPU in half for better performance. See that? I did this in Microsoft Paint, by the way. I did. So
brilliant.
I chopped the 7950X3D in half because I only need the fast side of it. If you are not aware. So
that's the side with the 3D cores on it?
Yes. So Advanced Micro Devices, when they created this product, and I did mention in the review that that's often shortened to AMD.
I heard of them, yeah.
They often make processors that are faster than Intel's offerings. They've had a long history of this. So I shoehorned in a picture of some old hardware on the shelf behind me just because. But what we're talking about is the three most important letters in the enthusiast DIY space: X, 3, and D. And one of those is a number, so that's incorrect. So the two most important letters and one most important number, X3D, which, as I stated here, is a ton of L3 cache. But I censored it in text, and I'll have to censor myself in the video edit.
No, he actually did write that. I just want to...
Yeah.
For our audio listeners, it's actually written. Okay. Yep.
If you have your kids stay up late to watch the podcast on a school night, then I apologize that they just heard.
Oh, please. We haven't taught them the word. They already knew it.
Yeah, so this is not a kid's show.
The whole point of this, and here's this picture I took back when AMD sent me the 7950X3D. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to test this out. And then I started encountering problems because you had to have a very specific configuration and take certain steps to even make use of the 3D V cache when you were gaming. because it's a hybrid product. You've got 3D V-Cache cores and you've got standard cores. And at that time, Windows was not especially excited about this. Kind of a scheduling nightmare. And there's something to do with the Xbox game bar. And so anyway, we were never sampled a 7800X3D, and I decided finally to just make one myself. So you take a $700 processor, go into the BIOS, and your motherboard may vary. But on this MSI board, under overclocking and then advanced CPU configuration and then AMD overclocking, I had CCD0 and CCD1 core control. So I was able to simply go in and disable CCD1 entirely, leaving me with just those sweet 3D V-Cache enabled cores. Here we have a screenshot of Windows. It's showing that it's a 16-core processor, but if you actually look at CPU-Z, it's only got 8 cores, 16 threads. The task manager is showing it, again, 8 cores, 16 threads, still 96 megs of L3. So what do you think would happen if I pit my fake 7800X3D, which, by the way, is actually better than a real
yours
X3D.
Is like a plus.
Yeah, that's
yours
the thing.
Yours is a 7800X3D plus with your
And this
cache.
is why I urge everyone out there, if you're considering a Ryzen 7 7800X3D, don't do it. Spend hundreds
Buy
more
the 7950
on the 7950 because you'll get 200 megahertz boost for free. Well, not for free, for like $200 or $300.
When setting money on fire, why not set it all on fire?
Really, this is just for the people who, when this launched, remember, there were months. There was a delay of months before AMD actually released the 7800X3D. And all you could buy was the 7900 or the 7950. The 7900, don't buy it. 6 3D V-Cache cores? No. The 7800X3D gives you the same chiplet, the same CCD as the 7950X3D, but without those pesky non-3D cores to worry about disabling. So it's a better buy. It's like $350. But if you are one of those early adopters who got the 7950X3D and you're like, dang it, I spent $699 at launch and it's not really any better than the $350 processor in gaming. Oh, yes, it is. Because
you just got to cut it in half.
Yeah, it's up to 5.25 gigahertz on those 3D V-Cache cores versus 5.0 on the 7800X3D. But I guess you could just overclock the 7800X3D. I wish I could throw the 7800X3D on these charts, but I don't have one. Anyway, here's just a couple of quick examples here. I have the 7950X3D with one CCD disabled on the chart versus a Core i9 14900K and a 13900KS, just to see if there's any difference between those two at all. And look at this. In Cyberpunk, high preset. This is 1080p. No image scaling enabled. This is with a 4090. I was getting about 190 to 192 frames per second with the Intel parts. 235 with the 7950X3D with one CCD enabled.
And the 1% low is...
and at this moment, you poured out your snake oil. That was when you poured it out.
Right. I mean, because I don't even know what I'm saying. I guess if Intel can say anything, it's that their 1% lows are better. And it seemed to be pretty consistent. But also the Intel systems had faster RAM. So that helps. It was 6,400 mega transfers per second versus 6,000 on the AMD system. And here's Metro Enhanced Edition, 1080 high, no scaling, 4090.
Yeah,
goes from 168 to 169 with the Intel parts to 219 almost. It's ridiculous. If you're playing at 1080p, even 1080 high, there is the potential to just blow Intel out of the water with this part. Once again, a little bit slower on the 1% lows, but not much. But I did a 1440 test real quick. Oh, let's run Time Spy and show almost no scaling whatsoever. This is margin of error.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Here. In this one example, the 14900K was just a little bit faster, but
Mind you, you are taking on the chip that was designed for gaming, Supremacy.
That's true. But yeah, margin of error.
Clocks are in their favor. Clocks,
with 3D Mark Time Spy, which is 2560 by 1440. So if you're one of those people who likes to spend $350 or more on a processor to game at 1080p high on your 4090, you will see a huge benefit to X3D technology.
If you're gaming at 1080, don't buy a 4090. I think that's the biggest takeaway. Unless you're buying a bigger monitor as well.
Like a 40-inch? No.
Preach.
No, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, for
So
3440 by 1440 is the smallest resolution you should consider a 4090 with. That is a 4K card. And actually, even the reviews when it and the Radeon newest generation Radeon cards came out at 1080, sometimes the 7900 XTX was actually faster than the 4090 because the 4090 just couldn't take advantage of its raw horsepower. None of the processors then were able to keep up with it at 1080.
So what I said in the conclusion was, this article is about daring to be different, daring to intentionally cut the core count of your flagship AM5 processor in half, daring to admit that you're envious of Ryzen 7 7800X3D owners and that you regret buying the Ryzen 9 7950X3D. Let it all off your chest. Be honest with yourself. It's okay. This is a safe place. So thanks to AMD and motherboard vendors, you have the ability to go in, easily disable half of your processor that you paid hundreds of dollars extra to get. And don't worry about, you know what, it was glorious to go into the system that I had been running a non-X3D on, put in this, disable 1CCD, and not have to change anything. No driver updates, no Xbox bar, no nothing.
Yeah.
And
you know,
actually works.
Sebastian, you've changed my mind. If you're the type of person that has a 1080 monitor and a 7950X3D is your next processor, and you're going to intentionally hamstring it and only use half of the cores, go ahead and buy a 4090.
Well, nothing but the best will do. And I'm sure that there are certain circumstances where, of course, even the 79, I should try it with the 7900 XTX. Because I bet you're holding that thing back with those non-X 3D cores as well. At 1080p. Again, so I didn't go into 720 because that's just showing off at that point. Like, here's my 720
and
results.
I mean, you do need the extra horsepower if you're running a 27-inch 1080p monitor, because those extra 3 inches you get from going from a 24-inch to a 27, I mean, you really got to push that.
Is there extra latency with the bigger panels? I mean, the bits have to travel farther to get to the edges of the screen.
During the day, you're poisoning AI image caches with all of your cores, but nighttime, you're a 2077 Maven. You're gaming in the night.
That would explain Jeremy's 40-inch, because it's a straight panel, and that latency would be less in a straight line than it would in a curved line.
Oh yeah, because the electrons don't slow down for the curves.
Nope.
Exactly.
No, they're just traveling in a straight line.
I don't think that's
and
the
it's
way
also
that works.
easier to carry.
It's certainly easier to ship.
They
can
40-inch
stack them closer together. Those boxes.
It's much easier to pick up and move. Because the plane of force is direct. It's not curved, so you're not worried about folding it in half.
I'm just gonna drink.
Yes. All right. Let's move to picks of the week and end this show. Josh, please get us started.
Be Quiet air coolers. They're really just stinking good. You can get them on sale now.
Sorry, can you speak up?
Well built. Sorry. Yeah, the Be Quiet Dark Rock Pro 4 can handle up to 250 watts, which if you have an Intel 14 gen, then you would definitely need this as kind of your baseline. If you don't want to do the all-in-one liquid cooler, it's what, relatively inexpensive. It's $69.
Nice.
Nice.
And $69.90. Nice. So pick it up if you've got a new AMD or Intel product shipping your way. It's an excellent, somewhat compact cooler, but they're well built. German engineering. So it means when the Americans can get away with a cooler that is made up of 20 parts, the Germans can make it just as effective with 73.
Can you fit a third fan on the back of it?
I don't know. Probably.
Okay.
And this one's not going to be in the shop like half the time either. Like this one will just work.
No.
It's reliable. Plus, I just love how Be Quiet actually has the guts to put the TDP design right on the box. That is not easy to find with most of these. Most of them don't say it at all. It's like, no, this is a 250 watt part. This other one's 225. This one's good for one, whatever. One of their smaller.
It's good for all current gen Intel and AMD processors.
Maybe.
By which I mean it'll fit on it.
320.
No, but it'll fit on it.
It'll fit on it, yes. But unless you go in and manually enforce power limits, you're still, thermal throttling on a 320 watt desktop CPU. In 2023, come on. This is why Intel needs TSMC. I mean, 320 watts. This is not a server part. This is not an AMD Instinct that's pulling 760 watts.
Oh,
yeah.
Those are
Who
power
needs
hungry,
die shrink?
by the way.
Let's just push more power.
Can we talk about power? During the whole blockchain mining phase of humanity, people were sucking down kilowatts of power everywhere to try to make free money for themselves. And now we're talking about how AI and inferencing and the generative stuff is going to change everything, and it's just
eats the same amount of power.
thousands and thousands of watts in every.
Yeah. Well, you're powering 183 billion transistors in the MI300X. I mean, it's ludicrous. That is a lot of silicon, all tiled together.
Ludicrous speed. Wonder what plaid would be. What the power consumption?
350 watt plus.
Okay.
Well, no, it'd be 1,000 watt plaid. Anyway.
Okay.
All right,
That's
Jeremy.
one toasty processor.
Jeremy, your pick this week.
Yes, this came about actually randomly between a conversation with Ryan and I. This is something that makes me insanely jealous of kids these days, because back in my day, you couldn't even get a G.I. Joe that would shoot something with springs. Nowadays, you can get a 3D printing pen specifically designed for use by kids because it's got an insulator around the tip so they can't burn themselves. And I'm just ridiculously jealous. If you're older, the pros, you can buy them too, but they're significantly more expensive. But the kid one is cheap. I mean, I paid around $50 for it here in Canada. The one down in there in the States, I think, was about $30 on sale. And so it uses ABS plastic, just like any other 3D printer. But you can give it to your kid, and they can make their own little thing. And if they're patient enough and have good motor control, you can actually do 3D spirals with this thing. You can start printing and then just sort of lift the pen up, and it will create a vertical object. Kids these days, I mean, seriously? This is insane. And yes, my niece is getting one for Christmas. This is insane.
I hope they don't watch this podcast.
Yeah,
and you just ruined
right now.
gift.
We'll cut this part out.
Screen time is very limited with Clemence.
Okay.
And besides, in Montreal, it's hitting midnight. So if she's
don't know that she doesn't have an iPad in her room, and she
secretly watches
to watch
her uncle. Say bad words.
iPad users don't watch us.
Kids should not be watching the internet.
No.
Every house has an iPad in it somewhere.
That's true. She does have one, but she doesn't get to keep it.
The iPad's like the Nintendo Wii. Everybody has one. It's just probably in a closet and doesn't work properly anymore. And Apple killed it with one update too far. Yeah. It's that one update too far.
Slow.
My son's iPad, just to rant for a second, he doesn't have that much on it, but it's constantly iPad storage full, because there's like 10 gigabytes of other in the storage. Like, you've got apps.
What the heck is that other?
That's the Steve Jobs.
Just fill it. Just flip those bits and fill it up so they buy a new iPad, and then send another iOS update. It's trying to send iOS 16.7 to this thing. This is a 4th generation iPad Air. It is not going to handle iOS 16.
It's still actually getting the updates?
Yes.
It hasn't like hit the point where it's just like, no, you're not.
This is still fully supported to the point of obsolescence, because that's what the next update is going to do. It's going to slow it to a crawl.
Still trying to get rid of iPhone 8s in our network because they don't get updates anymore. In part, I think, because if they did, they'd brick, but that would also solve problems.
All
right.
Hey, speaking of picks, some guy is selling on eBay a fully complete 1985 G.I. Joe aircraft carrier for only $13,000.
Oh, $13,000.
So it's yet another year where I don't get it for Christmas.
Does it come with the box?
That's like...
no, I don't think it comes with the box.
But for $13,000, I don't even get a box.
But it's got it all. I remember seeing that when I was young.
And I never got the aircraft carrier.
Yeah. I had the F-14. That was great. But no.
Well, you should have been more persistent, damn it.
Yeah.
Why am I not seeing the one that's $13,000? I'm seeing one in a box for $6,000.
Oh, I guess it was $6,000. I thought it was more.
Well, that's affordable. Almost.
That's direct from Wheeljack's lab, it says here. Oh, it's only $453.88 shipping.
100%.
Was that going to drive it to your house?
The one next to it. The one next to it is $7.20. So
I don't trust it. Like, I wrapped it in a paper bag.
Well, I would guess, being that it's $6,000 and it's probably fragile, even though it says unbroken, that $453 shipping is probably a lot of insurance.
Yeah,
could be.
This is definitely not a new
that
product.
One's been opened.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it was played. It was played with hard.
Oh yeah. I mean,
the USS Flag.
Highly
Yep.
disturbing. Okay, Brett, you have a pick this week, do you not?
I do, and it's rather simplistic, but it solves a potentially basic problem for a fair number of people. I remember trying to put 2 monitors on a desk some time ago, and it wasn't a very deep desk. It was relatively narrow, and unfortunately, the edges would not accommodate a clamp-on holder for a set of monitor arms. But I mean, who doesn't want to run 2 monitors, or maybe 2 widescreen monitors, or even 4 40-inch monitors? Who doesn't need to do that? But just pretend for a moment you only wanted to run 2. How do you solve the problem if you can't get a set of arms mounted to your desk? Well, here's a relatively inexpensive solution. This is a 20% off, probably for the Christmas season. So $79, which is, closing in on nice, but not quite, for a dual monitor desk stand solution. This comes in a variety of finishes, including basic black, goes with anything, bamboo, brown. So make it match your desk, but it is a way to elevate a couple of monitors and give you your shallow desk storage space back. Relatively simple and easy and visually appealing, so otherwise known as significant other acceptable method to getting a dual monitor solution when you can't get a monitor arm clamped to your desk.
I was worried.
We all know what I'm talking about.
A chunk of plywood that you just cut up.
It does. This looks pretty decent. So,
and it has that fifth leg. That's important. I thought from the front view you couldn't see it. Like, oh, this thing's on a bow.
Correct.
But no, it's got a fifth leg hiding in the back.
That is correct. And that fifth leg, you'd think like, oh, wait, this is a fairly wide 42-inch, platform. That fifth leg is strategically placed at the back so you can continue to shove a lot of stuff from the front of your desk underneath this to get it away from yourself.
This is beautiful. I thought the age of monitor stands was kind of over. No, we need to bring them back. I want to shove my... It's like the Amiga. I want to shove my keyboard into an area under the desktop, which I can't do with this because it's not the right keyboard. Yeah.
It's like a desk garage. And this elevates those monitors to a very nice, eye-pleasing height and gives you a ton of space back on your desk to shove
and look at
that
this
stuff
natural
underneath.
Finish on this wood. This is exquisite.
It's
this
bamboo.
Looks like
bamboo,
a
I think.
cutting board.
Yeah, it's bamboo.
And I could use this for so many things.
Yeah.
Including its intended purpose.
Like standing your monitors on.
Yeah.
For instance. Yeah. Anyway, simple pick for a simple problem.
Hey, speaking of a simple pick, this is not going to be ultra high tech. This is fairly low tech, but I mean, it's no secret that I have a very noisy furnace, and I podcast from down here
tonight.
Well, that's partly because I mute when it comes on, but also partly because it doesn't do these screeching horror sounds anymore. Because I replaced the inducer motor assembly myself for very little money by buying parts like this on Amazon. This is actually the part that I ordered from Climatech. And I have a
slightly cheaper than the desk riser.
Yes, for just actually I paid $79, but it's down to $76.95. There's all sorts of parts like this that are pretty much universal. I was watching some YouTube videos, and it turns out that Goodman and Amana and a bunch of others all use the same part. Basically, you just have to pick which side yours vents out of. Mine was on the left.
I was going to ask, did you watch YouTube to know how to swap this out?
Well, it seemed pretty self-explanatory. I'm like, it can't be this simple. So I watched a YouTube video. It was this repair guy. He had a GoPro on when he went on site to do the repair. And he took out his power drill, and he took out 5 screws. He pulled off the 2 electrical leads. He pulled off the air hose, and there's a pressure sensor on it. And then he slapped a new one on, screwed it on, plopped the air hose back in, hooked up the power leads, and he was done. It was about 2 minutes worth of work, and it's about an $800 service charge.
So for anyone wondering why Sebastian isn't on the podcast next week,
yeah, I'm going to be HVAC certified, and that's not a bad life, I guess. Except
you should be making service calls after you drop your son off at school. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah, I got a no heat call here, and I've got a screwdriver and an Amazon account, so I'll get you fixed up.
Yeah, $800 for doing its work.
It was stupidly easy to install. I felt like a fool. This is like, it's if you can swap a processor on a motherboard, you can replace parts on your furnace. It's not hard.
I don't know. I've seen you swap a processor before.
Hey, we'll talk about. Actually, I saw that video is still on my YouTube account, unlisted from 2014. I probably should just delete it. Although I recently made the Josh Tech video, as in this morning. I made the Josh Tech video public for the first time in 8 years.
Oh wow!
So it used to be if you went to joshtech.com, it was just a still image somebody had made of Josh being embraced by Heath Ledger. Yeah. Yes. So yes, it's from the cover image of the Brokeback Mountain DVD. So I animated it in Windows Movie Maker by just putting a bunch of dumb filters and transitions, like a heart transition, and it would like slowly go from Josh's face to Heath Ledger's face, and then the two of them together with a heart around it. And I put some tinkling piano music that was like I don't even remember where I got it, a YouTuber doing Final Fantasy IV Theme of Love. So it was like really syrupy music, and Josh and Heath, and it's just a touching 30-second video that you just have to watch.
A moment. Mm-hmm.
Get me some views. I only have 41 subs on YouTube, and I feel like this is the kind of content that's going to make me a superstar someday.
Well, if you up your content, I might subscribe at some point.
Okay. Hey, I can do stuff. I've done a microwave versus electric water kettle instant coffee comparison video.
Yep. I remember you talking about that. That was years ago.
I feel like there's a comment. I don't know if I penned it or not, but I think somebody kind of called BS on it, and I kind of had to agree, because I think the difference was when I use my electric kettle, I'm always using either like spring water or like distilled water or something out of a bottle. And when I use the microwave to heat up water, I'm just getting it right out of the tap. So the mineral content in the tap water is somehow being like accelerated or something in the microwave. And when I add the instant coffee, it foams up almost like an espresso. And if I do it in the electric kettle, it's still, and it's just plain black coffee. It doesn't have the head on it.
How far from Flint is Kalamazoo again?
Yeah, that's a good question.
2.5 hours. Look, they replaced the lead pipes in our street a couple years ago. That's why my corner got destroyed, because they had to bring in new copper pipes.
Sebastian, YouTube chat is clamoring for the direct link to this fresh video.
Oh, the Josh Tech?
Yes.
Okay, well, just let's see. YouTube.com.
Don't worry, I found it.
Oh, Lord.
Now, what's annoying to me is that I grabbed the handle 12-volt high power as soon as I could, once YouTube started doing handles. So my YouTube account, my personal one, I have the handle 12-volt high power. But if you go to youtube.com/12-volt high power, that's not the URL. I don't know how to find my channel other than to, I guess, just search or, I'll have to just link it. I'll tweet it. I'll tweet it out, the Josh Tech video link. But I can't put it in YouTube live chat because it'll get deleted.
Yeah, I think it gets to. Oh, well, I just tried it.
Too late.
I did it. I did it by text.
Oh, I posted it there.
Works.
It seems to.
Yeah, you can just put in the video name, like the random letters, like XTIG1175Q, and if you put that into the YouTube search, you'll find the video. But anyway, I'll link it somehow. It's a legendary video that you just have to see at least once in your life.
God, terrible.
And you can look at 8-year-old comments about it from the last time it was public, which are still on there for some reason, even though it says it was actually published today, which it was not. It was published in like 2014.
I cry every time. Oh, Lord.
Why can't I see it? Hold on here.
I'm playing it right now on another screen. It's
Oh,
it's heart touching.
Your movies. Yep.
Just like Asus.
Here we go. Your videos. Josh, 4.7 thousand views on Josh.
You're
Tech.
welcome.
31 seconds. You'll never get back.
what?
Kent, your pick.
My pick. Well, it doesn't matter much anymore because everyone's left to go look at Josh's video. But
We can wait 30
I'm here to tell you, there's people, audiophiles like Sebastian, who tell you can't get audio at a reasonable price.
Lies.
But I'm here to tell you, Sebastian's wrong. And for $40 on Amazon right now, actually with a 10% off coupon, you can get these SimGot EW200 IEMs, and they sound pretty freaking amazing. They're probably the second best sounding pair of headphones I have next to the Biodynamic DT1990s.
Hold on. And you're saying this about something that costs $39.99.
Yes.
Is this your company? Is this,
No.
Do you own this business? Okay.
No. These are what is being coined as chi-fi for certain.
Oh.
They're actually shockingly well made. The housing is all metal. They use a detachable 0.78 2-pin cable, and they sound fantastic.
How do they handle earworms?
About the same as anything else. Once it's in there, you got to get a screwdriver to get it out. So
Get it out.
Is this the Star Trek Wrath of Khan earworm style, or are we talking about something else?
No, we're talking about Weird Al's The Saga Begins earworm style.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Although a screwdriver would probably work for the con worms too. So.
Okay. All right.
Is this this? It looks nice. I guess one of the major differences from this.
I mean, they look great. They feel high quality. They sound, like I said, they sound fantastic. You do need to make certain they come with a selection of silicone tips. I didn't actually find any of the tips that came with it fit me very well. Then I tried putting them in my ears and it worked. That's
what she said.
So I actually used the tips off of another set of IMs I had that I knew fit me well, and they fit great and they sound fantastic. And they're $36. Buy them. They've got they're 16 ohm impedance and 129 dB sensitivity. So you can power these off of a phone, anything with a 3.5 millimeter jack.
Which is very few things anymore, but yes. With adapters, you can make a modern phone talk to a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack.
Oh, I see they have an $80 version too.
I've heard through some reviews that this $40 version is actually better than the more expensive one.
The more expensive one probably looks a little bit fancier, perhaps.
I think the more expensive one have just a single 10 millimeter dynamic driver. I think the more expensive one has either a planar driver or maybe a dynamic plus some balanced armatures.
Okay. Yeah, we don't need that. Just get the EW200, the EU200.
The EU200. Yeah.
10% off right now on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's a good deal.
$36. But my comment was going to be, I think that the difference between this, which is a product made in China from a name you have not probably heard of in audiophile circles, and a product that costs $2,000 that's also made in China that's from a big name, is the presence of the big name. Because, I mean, these factories exist. They're making stuff for the big brands. And, hey, once they move on, because they have to reinvent their products every couple of years to get people to buy a new.
The big brand has a marketing budget that they need a lot of care and feeding to continue. And they want you to pay into that. And that's how it is.
Yep.
I'm curious as to what the most expensive in-ear monitor is on Amazon.
And you're still saying you're not an audiophile.
Because I think
you're immediately going for the most expensive version, but...
I've talked to... Alan used to argue that his Shure IEMs were like the best sounding headphone he'd ever heard in his life. These are $400. They look very similar. It's the same kind of concept to the ones that Kent is talking about, but...
It's a monitor, though.
That's what Kent picked, is IEM. Anytime you're shoving it down into your ear, it's a different... Here we go. Here's the Sennheiser IE900s for $950. Sony has some for $500. Yeah. You get into this world of crazy expensive...
Oh, there you go. No, the Campfire ones.
Where?
Campfires are
$2,670.
Whoa! We're not even into the high end here. If I went to a place like Music Direct or something, and there'd be like $5,000 headphones easily, because $3,000 that gets you in the door
in-ear
for
monitors for $5K.
Yeah.
Rarefied air.
I'm sorry, do you not shop at Music Direct every week? I know you're always over at maxsales.com, but. Let's see. Let's just do a little check here.
No, Brent, they're actually physically motile. So you just put them near your ear and they creep in.
Let's go.
Yeah. That's not disturbing.
Let's just go highest price first. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Just wait till they have intercourse with your eardrums.
So, there's only up to $5,000 here? Come on. That's kind of embarrassing.
I thought you said this was a high-end shop.
I thought it was. Okay, I thought Music Direct was better than this, but apparently they stop at $4,000 or $5,000 for headphones. We should do an outro. I don't think we actually ended the show.
No.
No, we're still going.
I want to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart for watching this program, listening to this program, and just a moment of silence as we all pay tribute to Time Magazine's 2023 Person of the Year, Taylor Swift.
Oh, God.